Hi, this is Jason Ofster, and tonight we have another episode of Meet the Author with Fran Meadows. Fran Meadows wrote a book about infertility, and she was on the magazine Woman's Essence, How I Struggle with Infertility for a Baby to Call Mine. Welcome, Fran. How are you?
Hi, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Well, Fran wrote this book, The Truth Behind the Secret Infertility, and I'm going to read this for her. It's a personal diary of my journey to motherhood. I still had my hopes and dreams that I would become pregnant naturally without going through any treatments. Well, I was wrong. Here it is. 3.5 years later, the 30 mark has come and gone. I'm miserable. Everyone around me is pregnant or pregnant again, and I'm still not pregnant. How does this happen? How do you actually get to this point? Why us? I just don't understand. Why can't you always get what you want? Things always seem further away when you really want them. These were just some of the questions that I would ask myself. I still had no answers. I just made them up as I went along. So Fran, today you have this really good-looking boy.
Yes. Brendan.
What's his name? Brendan?
Yes.
Brendan, you're a star. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, my journey began probably when I was about 29, and we got married at 26 years old, so we were trying on our own naturally. And
who is we?
We, my husband and I, we were trying on our own naturally, and nothing happened. So we were a little concerned, and we decided that we were going to go see a specialist. We went to a reproductive endocrinologist, which he is a doctor that deals with infertility, and we went for all kinds of testing, meaning like blood work. They would do a full blood work on myself, my husband. My husband would have to get a semen analysis to check and see that everything was okay with his sperm, his mobility, his quality. And myself, they tested to see if there was anything underlying medical issues or something that they could find why I wasn't becoming pregnant. Mm-hmm. So at the 29-year-old mark, it's something where, yes, your clock is ticking and you want to have a baby. So we went, and unfortunately with all the testing that they did, I mean, it's a good thing, yes, they did not find anything wrong with my husband or myself. They found minor things, that I had a thyroid issue, I had some cervical polyps that needed to be removed, but otherwise there were no issues. So they basically diagnosed me with unexplained infertility, which, yes, it's a good thing. There was nothing wrong with us, but it's very questionable because now you wonder why. Now what do I do? Mm-hmm. So we started treatments, and they started with IUI, which is intrauterine insemination. And that is basically when they take the sperm from my husband. He does a semen analysis on the day, and I am medicated, where I am stimulated, where I would have many more eggs come through, follicles, or as they call them. And on the day of ovulation, they would inseminate me, kind of like a regular pap smear, so you call it. I know you wouldn't know what that is, but and they would insert his sperm through a catheter and insert it into my uterus, and we would wait then 10 days to see if we were pregnant. And this particular procedure we did 3 times, and unfortunately we had no success.
So before we go on,
sure.
Being in the health field myself, so I want to ask this question.
Sure.
How much of this process did you understand or know about before you started? Did you do your research, or was it all new to you and you just did what the doctor told you, or was it a daunting experience?
A little bit of both. I did my research. I went online. I did some research, and sometimes people say, don't go online because you're going to, as soon as you see something, you already have it. Mm-hmm. So I did do some research. My doctors gave me, pamphlets and booklets to read over, to educate myself, to know what was going on. They walked me through the whole process. They were very good with the whole process.
So I did some research myself on the internet, and I saw that one of the clinics was advertising that they sit a long time with the client and explain everything. Would you say in your case that's what happened, where they sat with you a long time and explained everything?
Absolutely, yes. They actually sat down with me. When you first begin, you go to a consult. A consult lasts anywhere from a half hour to an hour. Now that's a long time to be with the doctor. And they go through pretty much everything with my husband and I, treatments, what's going on with your body, where we would begin and what we would have to do in the future if something doesn't work. Unfortunately, they have to go through, pricing, and they have to go through insurance claims to make sure your insurance covers certain things, which in my case, the insurance did cover the majority of everything except for certain extra things. But they go through everything, and in my case, yes.
So a general insurance would cover infertility?
Not exactly. Every state has a different mandate with infertility coverage, and majority of insurances do not cover infertility treatment.
So that brings up a good point. If you had a medical reason for the infertility, that would make sense more to cover it than, like in your case, where it was not where it's not diagnosed for any reason.
Well, I was.
Do they differentiate, or
they try to, but see, I was diagnosed with unexplained. So it doesn't really mean I have underlying medical issues. But there are people that have underlying medical issues where I guess if you're medically diagnosed, but infertility is a diagnosis from a medical professional.
In itself?
In itself.
Okay.
So even though I had unexplained infertility, I was still diagnosed by a medical professional.
So therefore you had eligibility for coverage. Correct,
yes. But some insurance companies, like I said, even if you're medically diagnosed by a professional, they do not cover it. And a lot of people that I know, family and friends, do pay out-of-pocket expenses for coverage.
That's very interesting. A young couple, if they're thinking about what insurance carrier, they might want to take that into consideration.
Yes.
Okay, very
and
interesting.
Some insurance companies, like mine, had an extra rider to their insurance for infertility coverage alone. So I did my research when I was going through it, even though the doctor's office researches everything because obviously they want to get paid, but I did my own research, and that's how I began to educate myself on what was going on with myself, my body, my insurance. There are a lot of different things that I just had to take up and read up on.
Well, since you talked about that, what are some of the infertility resources where people can reach out to get support and more information?
Well, there are a lot of resources online, obviously. There's Resolve. They're the National Infertility National Infertility Association, and they're a very big organization which they advocate for women. And then there's the American Fertility Association. They're also a very big organization as well. There are other little organizations out there that mainly focus on infertility, adoption, pregnancy loss. There's a lot of different websites. There's a lot of different supports. I mean, I could be here all day telling you what kind of resources are out there.
Since you did mention Resolve, so what is this all about? Here we have the Resolve sticker. You actually help out in Resolve. You want to hold that and show everybody what is that all about and point to it?
Yes. Resolve, I was a advocate for Resolve. I volunteered, and we went to Washington, D.C., and we were on Capitol Hill, and we spoke to state senators and congressmen regarding the adoption tax credit and the Family Act bill, and these were the little signs that we went to take pictures on Capitol Hill to show our presence, obviously. And this one here says, "Senator, help me build my family." And then there's one that says, "Save the adoption tax credit." And these are actually bills that we advocated for because there are people still out there trying to build their families like I built my family. And some people have to go through alternative methods other than IVF and IUI. They go through adoption, surrogacy. There's so many egg donor. There's so many different alternatives to infertility that people don't even know about. And these particular bills, the adoption tax credit, these particular bills, what they want to continue this adoption tax credit, which it expires soon, and the continuation would help many families offset the cost of adoption, whether it's international, whether it's domestic, whether it's to a disabled child. So this is something that would help others build their family through adoption. And the Family Act bill would help offset cost for IVF. If you're medically diagnosed by a professional and you have to go through IVF, they would offset the cost for IVF. And it would help many families build their family. You know, they're struggling now, and insurance costs a lot of money. So we went and we advocated and we worked with Resolve, and it was a very empowering day being there with many different women, men and women that support the same thing.
So you also talk about resources. Tell us about From Roller Coaster to Mommy Coaster, Infertility Coaster.
Yes.
What is that all about?
This is my new blog that with Mommy's Links. We are networking different blogs, and my blog is a specialty blog for infertility. And this one, From Roller Coaster to Mommy Coaster, basically explains infertility is always known as a roller coaster. There's many ups, there's many downs, so that's the definition of roller coaster for infertility. And now, me being a mom of a 4-year-old, it's a mommy coaster. So it's, you know, a new blog that we just launched with, like I said, Mommy's Links, and we have different specialty blogs, and I'm going to be, you know, talking about my experiences with infertility, maybe giving some information about, you know, infertility and, you know, things that I went through in the past, and now through my mommy time with my son after infertility. So it's also a good way to, you know, meet new people online and, you know, relate with them with other things that they're going through.
So, Fran, you wrote this book to go over, you know, to share with other people your experiences.
Yes.
So tell us about you, the author, and why you wrote the book, and what do people, why should someone, at what stage should they get this book? When they find out they're infertile, or after they have a child, or anybody?
Well, I think it's a very broad audience, because my book basically I wrote for my own self-therapy. When I was going through infertility, I kept my journey silent, so I really didn't turn to anybody, whether it be family or friends, because I was a little embarrassed.
But you kept a journal.
Yes, but that was my journal, my personal journal. Nobody even saw, not even my husband knew about it until a while later. And I journalized everything that I went through, whether it be my treatments, my medications, my emotions.
Did you do that for the purposes of writing a book, or
No.
you just did it for yourself?
I did it for myself. It was a way for me to get my emotions out. I kept everything bottled up, and like I said, I didn't really speak to anybody. I was not the one to go out and find support or look for support groups. I kind of just kept it inside, but going through it for so many years, You
saw the purpose for why there are support groups,
yes,
and why people need them.
Yes, I
Very
do.
Interesting.
I do definitely see the support, and that's why now I am on the other side of this book, because I am here to help others, support others, and hope that they get through their journey.
Not to be afraid to ask for help.
Absolutely not. It's something that you need to speak up about. I kept my journey silent, and that was my choice, but you know, I don't think I would have changed it. But it's okay to keep it silent to others, you know, because it does get a little personal where people ask too many questions. But to go online and to reach out with one-on-one support groups, I think it's a great thing. It's a great resource. It's a great way to just get out and talk to people. It doesn't mainly have to be, you know, like, oh, I'm going to a support group, everybody's going to stare at me and want to know my story. No. You can have a very social night, you know, coffee, tea, soda, whatever, and just, you know, relate with other women and talk about it. So, like I said, my book, I wrote for myself, and I did not seek out to write a book originally. It was just my journals, and I put them together.
So that brings up a question. Were there other books on infertility and how people coped with it before you wrote this book? Did you have other books to read, or did you notice that there were no other books, and then you decided to write this one?
Well, there were other books out there. I did, you know, search other books. They were mainly on, I guess, like how you go through infertility, what the medical issues were. They were a little more specific. Mine is more of a memoir where I am very raw, very real, no candy coating, and I told my story because there are so many women out there that go through this that they have no idea what they're in for.
It's more like a support book versus
Yes.
a educational.
Well, there are some.
Of course, there's both, yeah.
Right, there's a little, but it's not. It doesn't mainly focus on the medical aspect. I touch on the medical aspect, but it's more about the emotional aspect because the emotional aspect is something that can bring you to a very deep, dark place. And I've been there, and I've lived it, and now I'm out here, like I said, learning from it and, you know, trying to educate others to speak out. So, you know, I think it's a great resource, and it's a very broad audience. I know there are many men that have contacted me, and they've read it. I mean, even though...
That's interesting. Why would a man, because their wife...
Maybe the cover? No. A man might want to read it because their wife read it, and they want to see because...
Well, were they involved with the infertility? Was in the family, or they just they wanted to read it anyways?
No, they were involved with infertility, and a couple of men that did contact me, they wanted to know, like, how women feel versus how men feel.
Well, that's a very good point. You know, so that if a man's wife has a problem with fertility, or they both have a problem with fertility, so what does the man read? That actually brings up a good point. Is there something out there for the man to read?
There are books out there for men to read. Not
this one.
Well, this one, yes. But I mean, there are, but I mean, I don't think that a man would sit down and want to read a book. I think they feel that the woman is the one that...
It's their job.
Not that it's their job. We hold everything in, and we hold everything together to try and, I guess, make that dream come true. Yes, the man is part of it, and this is a very big thing that I'm also trying to have others open up about, because men, they keep things to themselves, and they don't want to speak out. They're embarrassed. You know, it's just something that they don't know how to come out and start speaking about it. And since I wrote my book, my husband has been speaking to many men, and because he knows about the book, you know, they know about the book, and it seems that they're just kind of like, you know, opening up little by little, saying they have experienced this or they've been through it. You know, that's a great thing that your wife wrote a book. So, I mean, it's very interesting because the men are part of it.
Because it also can put a lot of stress on the relationship.
Absolutely. It's very difficult to go through. I can't lie and say that it was easy. It is a very difficult situation to go through infertility and keep it together. You have to work on your relationship, and you have to try and keep it strong.
Well, are there percentages in families that broke apart because of infertility issues?
I don't know the specifics, but there are families that, I mean, I know of that, you know, going through it, they're, you know, not together anymore, or they've had issues with their relationship. Me and my husband, we've had our issues. We've had our roller coaster. We've had our ups and downs, but we stayed grounded and we stayed together, and now we have my son, so it's a whole other experience down on the other side.
Where can people get the book?
They could go to Amazon.com, or they could go to my website, which is secretinfertility.com, and it's also available through ebook as well. So,
is it on Kindle?
Yes, it is on Kindle. And the name of the book is The Truth Behind the Secret Infertility. And you could, like I said, go to my website, secretinfertility.com, or they could go to Amazon.com. It's on Kindle. I have a PDF version on my website if they wanted to just download it. So it's available pretty much everywhere.
Is this the first book you wrote? Did you write other books?
No, this is my first book. So whether I'm going to write another one, I don't know.
So what was the process from the journaling to the actual writing? Did you take courses? Did you have a background in writing?
No, I did not have a background in writing. Basically, my journals, what I did one day is I went through them all. I started typing everything into my computer, just the way it was, very raw, unedited emotion, and I put it in my computer, and then that was the time where I said to myself, I'm going to write a book. And everybody looked at me like I was crazy. And why
would people think you're crazy?
I'm not crazy. I just think that they just looked at me like, why? What's your book going to help others? And I'm like, well, what we went through and the experiences we went through, we could help so many other people relate and, feel a little more at ease, a little more confident, or a little more, together, that there's somebody else out there that's going through it.
So what have you, I've seen on Amazon that you got very good reviews.
Yes.
Tell me about what have people told you who have read the book. Well, first of all, did you edit it or you did it by yourself?
No, I had an editor.
You did have an editor.
Yes,
it was very important to do.
She edited it, and, we went back and forth via email. And
so it's a professional book, even though you self-published it as professional.
Yes.
Tell us about why you self-published it instead of going to an agent, let's say.
Well, self-publishing, I guess for somebody like me, everyday person, I didn't think that an agent or anybody would be interested, so I kind of went the self-published route. And I know a lot of people that have gone the traditional route, and they say it's a long process. They don't even get their books.
And you wanted to get that message out there.
Right. I wanted it out right away, so I just self-published.
Now, as one of the advantages of self-publishing, you have more control over the time range of when the book comes out.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the responses? Well, you have examples how this book has helped other people?
Yes, I've many people, they've contacted me through my website, and my whole...
After they read the book?
Yes, after they read the book, they contact me and they tell me that they don't know how I actually got through everything, because it's not just infertility I went through. I also went through a pregnancy loss late in my pregnancy. I was 25 weeks pregnant, and I lost my first child, and it was very hard to get out of that deep, dark hole. I mean, especially going through infertility first and then going through a pregnancy loss, it was very difficult.
But that pregnancy loss was part of the infertility program process.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't like you were
like
pregnant
I became
and
pregnant
lost
naturally. No,
the child. But that was part. That was surprised me when I read about that. That you can have a loss while you're in the infertility process. That I was very surprised about. I didn't know that.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I had IVF, and I mean, I was 25 weeks pregnant. You're pregnant. It's not like, I mean, a miscarriage is before 12 weeks, and a stillbirth is after 20 weeks. So, unfortunately, I had a stillborn child that I had to deliver. So.
And you mentioned something about that I have to mention to relate to also.
Sure.
You talked about when you went to do, you found out because you went to do an ultrasound, and they did not, and you did not hear a heartbeat.
Yes.
Actually, when my first daughter was born, the first thing is that we went to do the ultrasound, and the first thing I heard from my daughter was the heartbeat, and like I knew I had a kid, you know.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I was able to relate to that.
Yes, it's a very scary thing, and becoming pregnant again after that, I did not want to look at that screen.
It was scary.
It was very scary. You didn't want to look at the screen. You didn't hear anything. Like it was just.
Do you have some anti-anxiety techniques that you used or developed or learned?
Not really.
Not in the book, but
Not
the next
really.
one. Do you have any? Did you want to write another book?
Well,
are you in the process?
I don't. I'm not in the process. I've gotten some suggestions from other people saying that I should maybe write a book and tell people's stories, like collaborate it all, and how people have gone through infertility in different stages and where they've come out on top, or if they've come out like where they have no children, or if they've adopted. I've thought about that, but right now, I mean, I'm going to continue, supporting
So you said
others.
you have this program, or the dreams. Tell us about the dreams, angels, and miracles, building blocks of life.
Yes, that's an event.
What's that all about?
That's an event, a fertility event that me and Mommy's Links have teamed up, and we are going to have an event focusing on infertility and pregnancy loss, surrogacy and adoption, and then we are going to have a second session which is going to focus on baby in the first years. So it's basically going to be an event where we have special speakers, we have vendors that are there to give educational information. It's something that we hope that people come out and they meet like a friends, where if somebody is going through it, they could relate to other women and have like a talk, chat session. So it's going to be very interesting. We're excited about the event. So.
And if I can ask, so if you want to have another child, you have to go through the whole process again?
Well.
What do people do if they want a second child?
They do. I mean, there are women, men and women that go through secondary infertility as well, where they've had no problems getting pregnant with their first child, and then they go back to start to have another child, and they go through secondary infertility where I guess their hormone balances are off or something else has, hit their body where they can't get pregnant the second time. So there are other, women that go through that. But myself, I mean, I have my son, I have my miracle. I'm happy. If it happens naturally, great. If it doesn't, I don't know if myself at this age that I could go through it again. I give a lot of women who are going through it now a ton of credit because.
Do you know women that have done it, have more than one child through the infertility process?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Do you know? Is there a maximum?
No, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how. So
tell us a little bit about what are things you're doing with your son.
Oh, he's a handful.
As a mommy.
He's a handful. He's a good kid. He likes to learn. He likes to do things. He likes to do chores. I mean, we go to the park and play. He's going to start pre-K in September, so I'm excited about that for myself to get mommy time and for him to get educated and go to school and get structured. So.
So in conclusion, what piece of advice can you give others that are struggling now? Where can people find your book? Well, we know where people can find your book, but what other advice would you give, final advice would you give others who are struggling? Probably to come to one of your programs.
Well, yes.
Do you have a plan to do other programs?
This will be our first event with infertility and pregnancy loss. I did volunteer at another program for fertility and adoption. So there are programs out there and events and expos that people could take advantage of, which I truly recommend. My words for anybody that's going through infertility: unfortunately, you have to stay strong. You have to stay positive. It is not hard. I mean, it is not easy. I could tell you that. It's very difficult, but you need to stay supported as a couple, and you need to take everything that's thrown at you and basically move forward and go with it, and hope that everything works out.
So one of the things we do on the show is we have the author sign a book over for the show. Do you plan on continuing to work on this subject, or you'll take a break after this program?
Oh, no.
After the program that you're going to have?
No. I continue to work on it. I'll continue to advocate for fertility and to help others build their families and, help with them with their emotional support. I'd love to get a support group going in Fairfield County so we could, have other women come out and, support them.
So if people want to be part of this support group, how they should contact you through?
Through my website. They could go to my website, or they could send me an email, franniefertility@aol.com.
Can you spell that?
Sure. It's FrannieFertility@aol.com. So they could contact me there. What would you like me to write in your book?
To Jason.
That's it?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it was nice having you as a guest.
Thank you, Jason, for having me.